Paradise Regained, Book 3. So spake the Son of God, and Satan stood a while as mute, confounded, what to say, what to reply, confuted and convicted of his weak arguing and fallacious drift. At length collecting all his serpent wiles, with soothing words renewed, him thus accost: I see thou knowest what is of use to know, what best to say, to do canst do. Thy actions to thy words accord, thy words to thy large heart give utterance due. Thy heart contains of good, wise, just, the perfect shape. Should kings and nations from thy mouth consult, thy counsel would be as the oracle Urim and Thummim, those oraculous gems on Aaron's breast, or tongue of seers, old, infallible. Or wert thou sought to deeds that might require the array of war, thy skill of conduct would be such that all the world could not sustain thy prowess, or subsist in battle, though against thy few in arms. These godlike virtues wherefore dost thou hide, affecting private life, or more obscure in savage wilderness? Wherefore deprive all earth her wonder at thy acts, thyself the fame and glory, glory the reward, that soul excites to high attempts the flame of most erected spirits, most tempered, pure, ethereal, who all pleasure else despise, all treasures and all gain esteem as dross, and dignities and powers all but the highest. Thy years are ripe and overripe. The son of Macedonian Philip had ere these won Asia, and the throne of Cyrus held at his dispose. Young Scipio had brought down the Carthaginian pride. Young Pompey quelled the Pontic kings, and in triumph had rode. Yet years to ripe years judgment mature. Quench not the thirst of glory, but augment. Great Julius, whom now all the world admires, the more he grew in years, the more inflamed with glory, wept that he had lived so long and glorious. But thou yet art not too late. To whom our Saviour calmly thus replied: Thou neither dost persuade me to seek wealth for empire's sake, nor empire to effect for glory's sake, by all thy argument. For what is glory but the blaze of fame? The people's praise, if always praise unmixed. And what people but a herd confused, a miscellaneous rabble who extol things vulgar and well weighed, scarce worth the praise? They praise and they admire, they know not what, and know not whom, but as one leads the other. And what delight to be by such extolled, to live upon their tongues, and be their talk, of whom to be dispraised were no small praise. His lot who dares to be singularly good, the intelligence among them and the wise are intelligent among them, and the wise are few, and glory scarce of few is raised. This is true glory and renown, when God, looking on the earth with approbation, marks the just man, and divulges him through heaven to all his angels, who with true applause recount his praises. Thus he did to Job, when to extend his fame through heaven and earth, as though to thy reproach mayest well remember, he asked thee, Hast thou seen my servant Job? Famous he was in heaven, on earth less known, where glory is false glory, attributed to things not glorious, men not worthy of fame. They err who count it glorious to subdue by conquest far and wide, to overrun large countries, and in field great battles win, great cities by assault. What do these worthies but rob and spoil, burn and slaughter and slave peaceable nations, neighboring or remote, made captive, yet deserving freedom more than those their conquerors, who leave behind nothing but ruins wheresoever they rove, and all the flourishing works peace destroy, then swell with pride, and must be titled gods, great benefactors of mankind, deliverers, worshipped with temples, priests, and sacrifice. One is the son of Jove, of Mars the other, till conqueror death discovers them scarce men, rolling in brutish vices and deformed, violent or shameful death their due reward. But if there be glory aught of good, it may by means far different be attained, without ambition, war, or violence, by deeds of peace, by wisdom eminent, by patience, temperance. I mention still him whom thy wrongs with saintly patience borne, made famous in a land and times obscure, who names not now with honor patient Job, poor Socrates, who next more memorable, by what he taught and suffered for so doing, for truth's sake, suffering death unjust, lives now equal in fame to proudest conqueror. Yet if for fame and glory aught be done, aught suffered, if the young African for fame, his wasted country freed from Punic rage, the deed become unpraised, the man at least, and loses though but verbal his reward. Shall I seek glory then, as vain men seek, of not deserved? I seek not mine, but his who sent me, and thereby witness whence I am. To whom the tempter murmuring thus replied: Think not so slight of glory therein, least resembling thy great Father. He seeks glory, and for his glory all things made, all things orders and governs, nor content in heaven by all his angels glorified, requires glory from men, from all men, good or bad, wise or unwise, no difference, no exemption. Above all sacrifice or hallowed gift, glory he requires, and glory he receives. Promiscuous from all nations, Jew or Greek or barbarous, no exception hath declared. From us his foes pronounced glory he exacts, to whom our Saviour fervently replied, in reason, since his word all things produced, though chiefly not for glory as prime end, but to show forth his goodness and impart his good communicable to every soul, freely of whom what could he less expect than glory and benediction? That is thanks, the slightest, easiest, readiest recompense. From then, who could return him nothing else? And not returning that would likeliest render contempt instead, dishonor, obloquy, hard recompense, unsuitable return, for so much good, so much beneficence. But why should man seek glory, who of his own hath nothing, and to whom nothing belongs but condemnation, ignominy, and shame? Whoso for many benefits received turned recreant to God, ingrate and false, and so of all true good himself despoiled. Yet sacrilegious to himself would take that which to God alone of right belongs. Yet so much bounty is in God, such grace, that who advance his glory, not his own, then he himself to glory will advance. So spake the Son of God, and here again Satan had not answered, but stood struck with guilt of his own sin, for he himself, insatiable of glory, had lost all. Yet of another plea bethought to him soon. Of glory as thou wilt, said he, so deem worth or not worth the seeking, let it pass. But to a kingdom thou art born, ordained to sit upon thy father's David's throne. Thy mother's side, thy father, though thy right be now in powerful hands, that will not part easily from possession won with arms. Judea now and all the promised land reduced to a province under Roman yoke, obeys to Tiberius, nor is always ruled. With temperate sway, oft have they violated the temple of the law with foul affronts, abominations rather, as did once Antiochus. And thinkest thou to regain thy right by sitting still or thus retiring? So did not Maccabeus, he indeed retired unto the desert, but with arms, and o'er the mighty king so oft prevailed, that by strong hand his father, his family obtained through a priest, though priest, the crown, and David's throne usurped, with Modine and her suburbs once content. If kingdom move thee not, let move thee zeal, and duty, zeal and duty are not slow, but on occasions for luck, watchful waste, they themselves rather are occasion best. Zeal thy father's house, duty to free thy country from her heathen servitude. So shalt thou best fulfill, best verify the prophets old, who sung thy endless reign, the happier reign, the sooner it begins. Reign then, what canst thou better do the while? To whom our Saviour answered, thus returned. All things are best fulfilled in their due time, and time there is for all things. Truth hath said, if of my reign prophetic writ have told that it shall never end, so when begin the Father in his purpose hath decreed, he in whose hand all times and seasons roll, what if he hath declared thou shalt first be tried in humble state, and things adverse, by tribulations, injuries, insults, contempts, and scorns, and snares, and violence, suffering, abstaining, quietly expecting, without distrust or doubt, that he may know what I can suffer, how obey, who best can suffer, best can do, best reign, who first well hath obeyed, just trial, ere I meet my exaltation without change or end. But what concerns if thee when I begin my everlasting kingdom? Why art thou solicitous? What moves thy inquisition? Knowest thou not that my rising is thy fall, and my promotion will be thy destruction? To whom the tempter, inly racked, replied, let that come when it comes. All hope is lost of my reception into grace. What worse? For where no hope is left no fear. If there be worse, the expectation more, a worse torments me than the feeling can. I would be at the worst. Worse is my port, my harbor, and my ultimate repose. The end I would attain, and my final good. My error was my error, and my crime, whatever, for itself condemned, and will alike be punished, whether thou reign or reign not. Though to that gentle brow willingly I could fly, and hope thy reign, from that placid aspect and meek regard, rather than aggravate my evil state, would stand between me and thy father's ire, whose ire I dread more than the fire of hell, a shelter and a kind of shading cool interposition as the summer's cloud. If I then to the worst that can be haste, why move thy feet so slow to what is best, happiest both to thyself and all the world, that thou who worthiest art shouldst be their king? Perhaps thou lingerest in deep thought, detained of the enterprise so hazardous and high. No wonder, for though in thee be united, what a perfection can in man be found? Of human nature can receive. Consider thy life hath yet been private, most parts spent at home, scarce viewed the Galilean towns, and once a year Jerusalem few days. short sojourn, and what thence couldst thou observe? The world thou hast not seen, much less her glory. Empires and monarchs in their radiant courts, best school of best experience, quickest in sight, in all things that to grace actions lead, the wisest, unexperienced, will be ever timorous and loth with novice modesty, as he whose asses found a kingdom, irresolute, unhardy, unadventurous. But I will bring thee where thou shouldst soon shall quit those rudiments, and see before thine eyes the monarchies of the earth, their pomp and state, sufficient introduction to inform thee of thyself so apt in regal arts and regal mysteries, that thou mayest know how best their opposition to withstand. With that such power was given to him then, he took the Son of God up to a mountain high. It was a mountain at whose verdant feet a spacious plain, outstretched in circuit wide, lay pleasant from his side. Two rivers flowed, the one winding, the other straight, and left between fair Champagne with less rivers intervened. Then meeting joins their tribute to the sea, fertile of corn the glebe, of oil and wine, with herds and pastures thronged, with flocks the hills, huge cities and high towered, that well might seem the seats of mightiest monarchs, and so large the prospect was that here and there was room for barren desert, fountainless and dry. To this high mountain top a tempter brought our Saviour, and new trains of words began. Will have we speeded, and o'er hill and dale, forest and field and flood, temples and towers, cut shorter many leagues. Here thou beholdest Assyria and her empire's ancient bounds, Araxes and the Caspian lakes, thence on as far as Indus east, Euphrates west, and oft beyond to south the Persian bay, and inaccessible the Arabian brow. Here Nineveh of length within her wall, several days' journey, built by Ninus old, of that first golden monarchy, the seat of Salmanasar, whose success Israel had in long captivity still mourns. There Babylon, the wonder of all tongues, it is ancient, but rebuilt by him who twice Judea and all thy father David's house led captive, and Jerusalem laid waste till Cyrus set them free. Persepolis, her city thou seest, and Bactra there, Ecbatana, her structures vast there shows, and Hecatompolis, her 100 gates. There's Susa by Choaspis, amber stream, the drink of none but kings of later fame, built by Amathion or by Parthian hands, the great Seleucia, Nisbius, and there Artaxa, Pterodon, Ctesiphon. Turning with easy eye thou mayest behold all these the Parthian now, some ages past, by great Arsaces led, who founded first that empire under his dominion hold, from the luxurious king of Antioch won, and just in time thou comest to have a view of his great power, for now the Parthian king in Ctesiphon hath gathered all his host against the Scythian, whose incursions wild have wasted Sogdiana. To her aid he marches now in haste. See though from far his thousands, in what martial equipage they issue forth, steel bows and shafts, their arms of equal dread in flight or in pursuit. All horsemen in which fight they most excel. See how in warlike muster they appear, in rhombs and wedges and half-moons and wings. He looked and saw what numbers numberless the city gates outpoured, light-armed troops in coats of mail, and military pride, and mail the horse is clad, yet fleet and strong, prancing their riders bore, the flower and choice of many provinces from bound to bound, from Arachosia, from Canador, east and Margiana to the Hyrcanian cliffs of Caucasus and dark Iberian dales, from Atropatia and the neighboring plains, of Adiabene, Media, and the south of Susiana to Balsara haven. He saw them in their forms of battle ranged, how quick they wheeled, and flying behind them shot sharp sleet of arrowy showers against the face of their pursuers, and overcame by flight the field all iron cast, a gleaming brown, nor wasted a wanted cloud of foot, nor on each horn cuirassiers all in steel for standing fight. Chariots or elephants endorsed with towers of archers, not of laboring pioneers, a multitude with spades and axes armed to lay hills, plains, fell woods, or valleys fill, of where plain was raised hill or overlay with bridges, rivers proud as with a yoke, mules after these, camels and dromedaries, and wagons fraught with utensils of war. Such forces met not, nor so wide a camp, when Agrican, with all his northern powers, besieged Albuquerque, as romances tell, the city of Gallaphrone, from whence to win the fair of her sex Angelica, his daughter sought by many prowess knights, both Paynim and the peers of Charlemagne. Such and so numerous was their chivalry, at sight whereof the fiend yet more presumed, and to our Saviour thus his words renewed. that thou mayest know I seek not to engage thy virtue, and not every way secure. Oh, on no slight grounds thy safety here, and mark to what end I have brought that hither, and shown all this fair sight, thy kingdom thou foretold by prophets or by angel. Unless thou endeavor as thy father David did, thou never shalt attain prediction. Still, in all the things and all men supposes means without means used, what it predicts revokes. But say thou wert possessed of David's throne by free consent of all, none opposite, Samaritan or Jew. How couldst thou hope long to enjoy it quiet and secure between two such enclosing enemies, Roman and Parthian? Therefore, one of these thou must make sure thy own. The Parthian first, be my advice, as near and of late found able by invasion to annoy thy country, and captive lead away her kings. Antigonus and old Hyrcanus bound, Magur the Roman, and it shall be my task to render the Parthian at dispose. Choose which thou wilt, by conquest or by league. By him thou shalt reign, without him not that which alone can truly reinstall thee in David's royal seat, his true successor, deliverance of thy brethren, those 10 tribes whose offspring in his territory yet serve and harbor, and among the Medes dispersed, 10 sons of Jacob, 2 of Joseph lost, thus long from Israel, serving as of old their fathers in the land of Egypt served. This offer sets before thee to deliver these ifs from servitude. Thou shalt restore to their inheritance then, nor till then. Thou on the throne of David in full glory from Egypt to Euphrates and beyond shalt reign, and Rome or Caesar not need fear, to whom our Savior answered thus unmoved. Much ostentation, vain of fleshy arm, and fragile arm, much instrument of war, long in preparing, soon to nothing brought. Before mine eyes thou hast set, and in my ear vented much policy, and projects deep, of enemies, of aids, battles, and leagues, plausible to the world, to me worth naught. Means I must use, thou sayest, prediction else will unpredict, and fail me of the throne. My time I told thee, and that time for thee were better farthest off, is not yet come. When that comes, think not thou to find me slack on my part, oft endeavoring or to need thy political maxims, or that cumbersome luggage of war there shown me, argument of human weakness rather than strength. My brethren, as thou callest them, those 10 tribes I must deliver, if I mean to reign David's true heir, in his full sceptre sway, to just extent over all Israel's sons. But whence to thee this zeal? Where was it then for Israel, or for David, or his throne, when thou stoodest up his tempter to the pride of numbering Israel, which cost the lives of 70,010 Israelites, by 3 days' pestilence? Such was thy zeal to Israel then, the same then now to me. As for those captive tribes, themselves were they, who brought their own captivity, fell off from God to worship calves, deities of Egypt, Baal next, and Ashtoreth, and all the idolatries of heathen round, beside their other worse than heathenish crimes, nor in the land of their captivity humbled themselves, or penitent besought the God of their forefathers, but so died impenitent, and left a race behind, like to themselves, distinguishable scarce from Gentiles, but by circumcision vain, and God with idols in their worship joined. Should I of these the liberty regard, who freed as to their ancient patrimony, unhumbled, unrepentant, unreformed, headlong would follow, and to their God perhaps of Bethel, their gods perhaps of Bethel and of Dan? No, let them serve their enemies, who serve idols with God. Yet he at length time to himself best known, remembering Abraham by some wondrous call, may bring them back repentant and sincere, and at their passing cleave the Assyrian flood, while to their native land with joy they haste, as the Red Sea and Jordan once he cleft, when to the promised land their fathers passed. 'Tis due time and providence I leave them. So spake Israel's true king, and to the fiend made answers meet, that made void all his wiles. So fares it when with truth falsehood contends.